Let's do it.
Hello and welcome to the Shack News Chattycast, the podcast that came to this city with big dreams, only to have them crushed. I'm one of your hosts, Steve Watts.
I'm your other host, Brian Carr. Steve, today's Chattycast brought to you by Audible.com. Get a free audiobook download and a 30-day free trial at www.audibletrial.com/chattycast. And you know how to spell that. You do.
You should. You should by now. Today's guest will be joining us any minute. Asif Khan. I'll introduce him when he comes.
You guys know who Asif is.
You all know Asif. Come on.
If you don't, well, you will shortly.
You're already hitting unsubscribed.
Yeah.
She's like, this thing is a mess. I've only listened to 15 seconds. But anyway, so today, as I sort of implied on the opening, every week we pick a big topic and post about it in the Shack News Chatty, and then we talk about it in detail with your comments in the Chattycast. This week, we're talking about Hollywood blending with the game space. Quantum Break launched this week. It uses a lot of real-life recognizable actors, including Iceman and Littlefinger. So we're going to talk a little bit about Hollywood actors making appearances in games and what that means for the industry and for the actors and all sorts of those things. But first, before we get to all that, we're going to talk about what we're playing. And Brian, how about you kick us off? What are you up to lately?
Oh boy, Stevie. Got a lot of stuff going on. So let's talk about the thing that is my Asif's VR. It's MLB The Show 2016.
Yeah, when Asif comes on, he's going to be all VR all the time. He actually, I'll get back to your MLB and your baseball in a second, but
anything to take my shine away. Anything to take my shine away.
He's been like he said yesterday that he had like 4 hours of sleep, and he had basically just been in VR like almost nonstop for basically days. And
wasn't there like Star Trek episodes about this, like people getting addicted to the holodeck?
Yeah, I mean, this is what we talked about. Like, I basically suggested, like, you need to write about that. Like, you need to write about like what effects this has had on you as a person, just coming out of that and feeling all weird.
Right?
Because he literally said, "I've been so many places," which sounds
yet
like
I've never been to me.
Which sounds like, you know, that horrible future that everyone was fearing. Okay, anyway, back to baseball. Tell us more about MLB The Show.
Enough like 1990s Charlene references. All right. So I've been playing this show. Of course, review of the show 16 is on the site. I think we ended at an 8 out of 10, which is about right. I still stand by everything in the review, but I do enjoy the game enough to actually play it post-review. So I've been doing that, trying to get some of the online modes in and doing some of the missions. I did one of the missions where you have to collect 25 Detroit Tigers players. I did that. And that gave me some more XP and stubs that I can use on other things. So I'm currently trying to just clear out some of those missions and see where that gets me. But it remains a very good video game. I'm very happy with it. I will say that sometimes the AI is a little bit unfair because it seems like if you play a game against against the CPU, they're going to, at some point in the late innings of a game, especially if it's like a 3-inning kind of like elimination game, they will start hitting liners and base hits and eventually will just crush a home run. A team that cannot hit a home run the entire game will suddenly, all of a sudden, lift one out into the stands.
So there's a little bit of rubber banding, is what you're saying.
A tiny bit. It's not enough to like break the game or anything, but I have noticed it, and every time it happens, I get angry.
But let me ask you this.
That's I think necessary for the game mode, the conquest mode. You have to keep it to 3 innings, or it's going to get insane.
Yeah. In sports games, I know that sometimes there are teams that are just dominant, either because in real life the team is dominant, or because one of the developers just really likes the Bulls. So like, is that like a thing in modern sports games? I don't play that many sports games, obviously, but is that a thing in modern sports games?
So I don't think it's as much of a thing. Theoretically, any team can beat any other team, but there are certain teams that are certainly ranked higher, have higher quality players, etc. And it's usually based on how they finish in last year's standings. So right now, the top 2 rated teams in MLB The Show are the Mets and Royals because they were the World Series finalists. So they are going to be the highest rated teams by default. whether or not that's actually true in the current standings. So I think that they try to match the real world as much as possible. I don't think there at least has not been any evidence of teams that have a certain advantage in this particular game. Though I did think it was super funny in NBA Jam when I think it was the Pistons. Like if you played the Pistons against the Bulls or something like that, and it met a certain criteria, you would always win. Yeah. So nothing like that. But that like as far as I know. But it's still very good, and it's still very much a baseball RPG. And I'm right in the thick of the season now. We just got it started. The Detroit Tigers are right now undefeated, have a perfect record. After one game, they are completely perfect. So I'm in a good mood. I'm in a good place. And the only other game we've really been spending a lot of time with is well, I don't know if you count Miitomo as a game, and I'm not sure how much time I really want to commit to that. But
it's a social network app.
Yeah, and like I've seen some complaints and some criticism suggesting that a lot of it's just kind of like marketing research if you really look at the questions that they're asking. I think that's true, but it's still cute. I don't know. I have a hard time getting that upset about it. We can talk about other things Nintendo might have done lately that are questionable, but
here's what I think of Miitomo. It's the reason that I like it isn't because I love the app itself.
No.
Like it's cute, it's fine. I got Zelda Picross out of it, but it's very Iwata, and something about that just kind of warms my heart in a weird way. Where I'm like, oh, this is totally Iwata's design sense, and you can see his fingerprints on this thing, and it's kind of nice, even if I don't particularly love doing it. I basically did it long enough to earn my Zelda Picross, and then I'm like, okay, see you, Miitomo. But yeah, I just kind of like it being like one of Iwata's last things, which presumably the NX will be another one of Iwata's last things.
Yeah,
kind of warms the cockles.
It is, and it's interesting to see where the company goes after that. Especially some of these, I think we'll see it first in the apps because obviously those are going to come out a little bit sooner than the NX will. But it is an interesting kind of transitional period. Speaking of Nintendo, I also did play some Hyrule Warriors Legends. And that is still the best Zelda game. That is not a Link Between Worlds.
You are a crazy person.
I am not a crazy nothing. Listen, they've gotten me tested. I am not an insane person. This is very much it's certainly the best Dynasty Warriors Musou game. And it is a good ride, and there's a lot of stuff in the game. Like it's actually a pretty astonishing value just in terms of the sheer amount of stuff they've packed into it. You could see Linkle's pretty okay. So Linkle's rad, but it's weird because well, Linkle is like okay. So Linkle is on paper fantastic, right? She's the female Link. She's got like 2 crossbows. That's all pretty cool. She plays really fun. You can hold down the special button and like go into like this over the shoulder kind of third person shooter mode and just like start mowing dudes down. That's pretty entertaining. The problem is I'm not sure what to make of her from a story perspective. Her personality is basically that she is convinced she is the hero of legend because she has green clothes and her grandmother told her that she is in fact the hero of legend. And she gets lost all the time. Like she tries to follow a map to get to the castle to help Princess Zelda, and she goes in the wrong direction.
So she's like a goof. Like that's
she's a goofball, yeah. And like the first mission you have her, Skull Kid steals her magic compass, and it is in fact a magic compass, but apparently it is not magic in the sense that it tells her where to go. It just
when you said like her story was that the grandmother told her that she's the hero of legend, I was like, that's kind of cool. It's sort of like playing with the like legend aspect, where it's like, oh, because you told this girl that she ends up becoming a hero because she believes that she can do it or whatever.
Well, she's got this compass that's got like the Hyrule royal crest on the back of it, and it glows and like has some magic powers that I haven't really figured out what they are yet. But her chapters are kind of doled out slowly as you play through the rest of the game. So I'm kind of trying to get to the point where I left off in the Wii U version to see where that goes. But I also unlocked Toon Link in adventure mode, so that's kind of fun. Yeah.
So those of you watching the video already know this, but for our audio listeners, Asif God has joined us. Welcome, Asif.
Hi guys. Sorry about that. I was apparently stuck in the Matrix.
Yeah. He unjacked just in time. That sounded weird.
Not
anyway,
yeah. That's a personal story.
So Brian, before we ask Austin what he's up to, which I think we all know,
Mhm.
have you been playing anything else?
I don't know. I've got like a story that pertains to video games, but it's not specifically related to video games, and I figure this is probably as good a place to tell it as any.
Yeah, I
Um,
mean, go for it.
So I went to a political rally because there's a lot of presidential candidates coming through here, and I figured, for the sake, I'm not
You're
even
in
going to mention.
Wisconsin, so people know the context. There
Yeah.
was a big election last night. Yeah.
Yeah, and so we've had candidates coming through, and my big thing is like I'm not endorsing anybody, but if I have a chance to get out and see it, it's like a part of history. You're kind of watching stuff unfold. So we go to one of them. I won't mention the candidate, but we go through. We have to go through a Secret Service security checkpoint. Okay.
Oh yeah, I know the story. Okay.
Yeah. So we go through Secret Service, and I brought my 3DS because I need to finish my Street Pass puzzles. This is a thing that is really starting to bother me, and I knew there were going to be a lot of people at this event, and I figured that.
So that's where it happens.
Well, yeah, but I haven't been able to get out there. So I figured, all right, I'm going to bring this, get some puzzle pieces, and so as you know, you have to unload everything out of your pockets, and they have to like scan it and do all that stuff. So I get my phone, my wallet, my keys back, and then I look over, and the Secret Service guy is playing with the 3DS. I've got like a game of Mario and Donkey Kong going on there, and he's like trying to figure out, how do you play this? And they're like, you got to tell him how to play this. I'm like, you got to use the touch screen, and they start asking me all these questions. And like it's weird. So I'm basically getting interrogated about video games by the Secret Service, and they start asking me questions like, okay, so how do you play this game? What games do you got in there? I'm like, well, I got Hyrule Warriors Legends in there. Like, you played The Division? I actually have. Yeah. What do you think of The Division? It's all right. Like, have you seen the Wildlands? I'm like, oh yeah, that's the other new Tom Clancy one, right? They're like, yeah, okay. And then like they like periodically they yell over to the guy who's looking at the 3DS saying, "Don't do that. You're gonna mess up his game. What level are you on? You can't do that." And then and I swear they actually asked me this question: do you know how many explosives you can pack into something like this? Of course I don't know. I have no idea. Okay.
There was some exchange that I read your account of this. That was like, could you do you know if you could still turn it on?
Yeah. Like, so they asked
with
me like,
explosives packed in it, and you're like, I don't know.
well, so yeah, like they asked me, like, do you know if you could still make this work if you've got explosives packed in it? Of course I don't. And they're like, so I'm guessing, no, I don't think you could. They're like, you'd be surprised. I'm like, well, okay, you're the experts. But it was
I will take your word for it.
Yeah, it was. And then I told them about what I did and like that sort of stuff, and it was pretty fun. Like I was standing there for probably a good 5 minutes just talking to them, and it was weirdly intense, but I think that's one of those things, like, they have to get so bored doing this stuff that anything they can
partly
take.
Caution and also partly boredom.
Yeah.
You helped talk about them that apparently they're into because they know about the Division.
Yeah, well, they were all pretty young guys, and they were all like at least pretty familiar with this stuff. They were asking me the resolution of the 3DS and all that. It's
also I don't want to stereotype Secret Service agents or anything.
Yeah.
But like the worldview of the Division, where it's like shit's gone real wrong, and you personally need to go in and fix it. Like, I can see why that would be appealing to the kind of person who is also attracted to be in the Secret Service.
But if you look at like the military and people in the military, they do really gravitate towards things like Call of Duty and Tom Clancy games and that sort of thing, because they have a knowledge and an appreciation for it, and they think they kind of like, okay, this is sort of similar to what I do. Kind of for the same reason like football players will still play Madden and that sort of thing, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know if it's necessarily like, like they're like attracted to the worldview, or if they're just kind of into anything with the Tom Clancy name on it, right?
And they see actual gun names, and they're like, I know that gun. I fired that gun several times.
That makes sense. And like I'm trying to like I wonder if like obviously they know there's nothing at all realistic about the Division. But it's, I don't know, it was just the weirdest thing. It's like it was a fun story to tell, and it was. I will say this: the Secret Service was very nice.
Yeah, I'm sure. Like that, I think to an extent they were, messing with you.
No, they were. They were absolutely. I think they know that they are kind of intimidating, and they were using that to mess with me. And I respect that. I respect the hell out of that. I would do the exact same thing in their situation.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. Like, not really particularly related to anything I was playing, but I figured, you know what, I should tell that story, and where better than the Shaq
Pretty
News
great,
Shaq.
yeah. So, Asif, you told I mentioned this earlier on the show. You told me that you've gotten 4 hours of sleep. I hope last night you got a little more. But you've been real plugged into the Vive lately. So you want to give us a quick overview of like the lab?
Well, yeah, you guys brought me on here to talk about Miitomo, right?
And we can.
Yeah,
talk about
the only thing that you're doing these days.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I've been working real hard on my Mitomo review. No, I got sleep last night, Steve. I think I fell asleep on my couch around midnight. Woke up
There you
around
go.
5, put the dog in her little area, and then went upstairs and probably got another 4 hours of sleep.
When you wake up
So
and you're in the real world, are you like
yeah,
surprised? Are you looking around like what the?
yeah. I mean, that's the real. Yeah. So what I'm really here to talk about, what I always talk about, is virtual reality. HTC Vive launched yesterday. I've had it for about a week, and I really spent a lot of time this weekend on it. I played the lab. I played Job Simulator. I played all these different Fantastic Contraption, all sorts of games. The disorienting part of it is when, okay, I'm in this room, right? I have the room scale VR set up here. That's one of the sensors right there, if you can see it. Yep.
Oh yeah.
Um, but the disorienting part is you go into VR, let's say I'm facing this way. When I come out, I could be facing any direction. You're like, huh? How did I get over here? You don't really realize when you're walking around in VR where you are. The nice thing about the Vive is it has a front-facing camera. So you are able to push a button and kind of check in on reality. But yeah, it's really good. I mean, their controllers are just some of the best. I think in my review I said maybe the best controllers ever made. I think they're moving forward gaming kind of like the Wii did, and then you could even argue some other Nintendo controllers in the past, like look at the original NES, how they introduced the D-pad, and that changed gaming forever. Or look at N64, how they introduced the analog. I think the haptic touchpads on the Vive controllers, especially because in VR you can see where your thumb is placed on the controller, I think that's revolutionary.
Now you said something interesting yesterday that I kind of want to explore here. You compared it to the Wiimote a lot. You compared it to the Wii in general as being this sort of revolutionary device. Yesterday, I made like a little crack when we were on a call where I was like, oh, there's no 50-hour RPG on VR yet, and you basically said like there isn't or there shouldn't be or something like that because like
Yeah.
you basically said like VR is best for like 20-minute experiences, which sounds a lot like what people said about the Wii and also what gamers by and large sort of griped about on the Wii.
Well,
so
I guess
so is this the new filthy casuals?
Absolutely not. It's not, because I mean I don't know any filthy casuals that have 980 Ti.
That's true, yeah.
What I think is going on is that there's going to be a divergence in experience in VR. There's like, I think Valve really sat there and they were like, what do we want to do? And they almost came at this like an arcade perspective. People want to pick up, and this speaks to me because I like to pick up a game, play it for 5 minutes, put it down, do something else. If you watched my live stream last night, I streamed on the Shack News channel. I played like 10 different games over a period of 2 hours. Because I wanted to show off as much as I could to our viewers, and B, because you don't want to sit there and do the same thing over and over. You want to play it, you want to experience it, and you want to move on. I think that's what Valve has done, especially with the lab. I just don't know if people are going to, like, Josh last night was like, oh man, The Witcher would be great in VR. I'm like, I don't know if people want to spend 50 hours or 80 hours.
I don't want to spend 80 hours with The Witcher as it is. Like,
exactly. In 2D.
That's entirely too much.
But there's this one game, and it's in the lab. It's called Zortex, Xortex. It's by far my favorite thing to do in VR. It's kind of like Asteroids and Galaga for the 21st century in a 3D space, and you're able to you pick up a drone in one hand and you kind of navigate it around. This is the only thing you have to dodge bullets with, so lasers can hit you. I beat it last night. But I'll still go back and play it because it's super challenging. I don't think that. I don't know. Maybe someone will figure out how to create a very long form experience in VR. I think what will more likely happen is what you're seeing with Oculus Story Studios, where it's like, here's this short film, and even those, like Henry, for instance, is only 15 minutes. No one's making like a full-length feature film to sit there and watch in VR yet. Because there's just not enough people on the platform yet to justify that kind of investment. So I think the same is true with AAA titles coming to VR. And when I mean
Hardcore Henry? Or
no, I wish Hardcore Henry was in. No, Henry is about a little. I think he's a hedgehog, and
Oh, okay.
no one will come to his birthday party because he has spikes, and every time he hugs them, he scares them away. It's
That sounds adorable.
another one
So-
called. Yep, go ahead, Brian.
I was gonna say that seems like a really good way to revamp Sonic the Hedgehog. Like I don't know why Sega's not just buying this
Nobody
right now.
wants to hug Sonic.
Well, nobody
Yeah.
does.
That's true.
true. No,
Except Mario.
there are lots of people who do, and let's
Well, okay, yes, but let's
just steer clear.
don't open that door.
Let's talk about consumers hugging him. No, so I just I'm not sure when we'll see some kind of massive game come to VR, because I don't think that's how it's going to be played. I think it's more of a
It's like a
pick
cool
up.
thing that you show off, and so that lends itself more to short experiences.
But then again, there's Tilt Brush, which is a creative app I talked about in the review, where you can sit there and paint in 3D space, which you've never been able to do. You can put some paint over here, and you can turn around, put some paint over there. You can put sparkles, you can do whatever. I put my friend in it. He hadn't been in VR in the Vive before. He had tried the DK2. He was so immersed in Tilt Brush. He was there for a good 20, 30 minutes just painting and then putting his head in things. And he was joking that it's basically a hallucination generator. So it's like you could create your own visual hallucinations and just sit there and enjoy them instead of having to take drugs. So I think that kind of experience is probably going to last a very long time and could be very addictive. That's another thing
Like
I want to
drugs.
talk about. Yeah, that's the thing I want to talk about. I actually tweeted this last night. I said VR is like crack rock. Like, it's short, sweet, and then you want to do it again. It's not like I don't know what the drug equivalent of The Witcher is, but it's probably something much longer. Maybe The Witcher is like peyote or something. But
you go on a really long trip. You come out changed.
So I feel like right now we're going to have these smaller experiences that you pick up and play. But look at Job Simulator. I played through that whole thing. It was 2.5 hours from start to finish. And then, granted, they have a new mod afterwards, but I was like, God, I don't want to play this again.
You are not into Job Simulator.
I've
heard some people really into it, but
I'm glad we got to speak about it after I experienced it, because if I had reviewed it right after I did that demo, I'd probably give it like a 6 out of 10. But having gone back and thought about it some more, I'm like, okay, you know what? This is a good game, but the premise still fails to actually resonate with me. Who wants to go to virtual reality to do work?
yeah. It's got to be absurdist on purpose. I think that's part of it.
Yeah, it's almost too absurdist.
It's like what was that? There was a Vita game, I think, or maybe it was PSP, like the happy work time or something.
Work time fun.
Work time fun. That's it. Yeah. Or WTF.
Yeah, no, it's Job Simulator is not bad, and the humor in it's really good. The other thing we had Greg play the lab, and he was playing this game Slingshot, and he was losing his mind at these cores. They have a really funny sense of humor. It's like one of them's like the global warming core, one of them's like the fruit punch core, and they're all really passionate about what they're about. So it's like the global warming core will just sit there and talk to you about global warming until you fire them away into the warehouse to blow stuff up. It's like in the lab, there's that token Valve Portal humor just kind of injected into it. And I think that's really good. And then there was another short film called The Rose and I that was kind of just another VR experience. I don't know if you guys have ever read The Little Prince. It's basically The Little Prince on a planet, and there's a little flower, and then walking around. It maybe lasted like 10 minutes, though. You know what I mean? Like, a lot of these shorts aren't very long. A lot of the games aren't very long, and some of the games are just, it's a lot like when the Wii launched. Some of the games are just bad. And you pick it up, you play it, and you're like, okay, I'm done. Don't want to play that again. But the ones that I do keep revisiting are the Brookhaven experiment, which is this. I was talking to people about this last night. Everyone's talking about first-person shooters coming to VR, and what I see happening in the greatest demos are that you're not moving. You're standing still on a platform in these shooters, and you have enemies coming at you from every direction, right? So it's like wave-based shooter. You're standing in a park and it's dark. This is the game I was telling you guys about last week or 2 weeks ago when I said I might have PTSD from it. It's zombies coming at you from every direction. You have to conserve your ammo. It tells you ammo on one hand, and you have a flashlight. You have to conserve the flashlight battery on the other, and it's really immersive. Because your focus is on one side, and you hear a guy coming from behind. You have to turn around and shoot him. Yeah, that to me is really cool. I just don't think you're going to see like Call of Duty come to VR. I think people would be throwing up all over the place. This idea of your body moving in VR with you standing still, that's disorienting. I saw it happen to Greg in Hover Junkers. Once he got on the platform, he started moving the platform around, he started getting disoriented really quick.
It's when your brain is getting like mixed signals, like
and I said this before.
You can sense that you're moving and not moving at the same time, and your brain's trying to make sense of it.
Until you bore a hole into the base of your brainstem, you're not going to be able to trick yourself to thinking you're moving when you're not. And that's going to be a problem for VR for a while. I just think that the better software is going to do what the Brookhaven experiment did and say, okay, maybe this isn't about this. Or, I don't know if you guys ever heard of the Bullet Train demo from Unreal. There's this teleport feature that they introduced, and that's also in Valve. So instead of walking around, you hold down the touchpad, you point to the area, and it teleports you there. For some reason, teleportation in VR, not jarring at all. Walking around when you're not walking, very jarring.
Yeah.
So I think locomotion the locomotion in VR will probably be more driven through something like teleportation. Also, I have a 6 by 6 foot square here to walk around in. So if you're in some massive game, you can't walk around it. You'll run into a wall or something. So there has to be another way of locomotion in VR that won't be as jarring. From what I've noticed, though, like seated experiences, like Eve Valkyrie or VR cards, these are some Oculus titles. But when you're sitting and you're moving around, it's less jarring because in VR you're also sitting. So your mind is able to suspend belief and be like, okay, I'm in something that's moving. Whereas when you're standing somewhere but your body is walking around in VR, that is something that a lot of people can't handle. I didn't get VR sick very much in the last week, but when I did, it was more due to how they treated the camera. There was this one game, it's kind of like Marble Madness, which I loved growing up. That was like one of my favorite games, so I was excited to play it. But it does this thing where it just switches the camera, like a platformer would on a console. So you get to like one part of the level, camera switches, right? That's really jarring in VR because your head is the camera. And I got sick maybe 3 minutes into playing it. I was going to ask you, Steve, I think I'm going to start writing reviews for VR software. I think VR sickness almost has to be a component of a review.
Yeah, like its own breakout section.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that was really the only time I felt like legitimately ill from VR. And I guess I'm more experienced than most people. I've probably spent over 24 hours in VR in the last week, and I have another article idea that I talked to Steve about yesterday, which is the psychological impacts of VR,
especially being in VR for extended periods of time.
Yeah, long-term use, extended periods of VR, and I read up some really interesting articles about it. People say that you're more likely to want to take risk. You're more likely to engage in things that are maybe illicit. You want to take on more vices. Apparently, from that, there's all sorts of studies that have been going way back into the 90s about how long-term VR use affects the mind. And I'll be a great guinea pig for that because I'm hopelessly addicted to virtual reality.
Yeah. I don't really have much to talk about for myself, so I'll sort of speed through
Talk
it.
Mitomo. Hold on. Let's talk.
We talked a little bit about Mitomo before you came on.
Aww.
Just a little bit. We basically.
It's delightful.
We basically kept it to, it feels like an extension of Iwata. It feels like his one of his last things, and that kind of makes me
Right?
happy. But
Doesn't it? It has
speaking of
this.
Nintendo, the other thing that I've been playing that I can actually talk a little bit about now, I can talk about a little bit, which is why I'm going to keep this short because I can't review it yet. But I can give impressions of Star Fox Zero, and that game is probably, depending on how closely you've been following it, it's probably a lot more Star Fox 64 than people previously realized. Because as somebody who played a lot of Star Fox 64, I sort of had that suspicion when I was playing it at the demo at last E3, because we were on Corneria, which is like the opening planet of every Star Fox game, so that wasn't that unusual. But there were like repeated lines of dialogue and sort of enemy patterns that seemed familiar, and I'm like, this all seems like very weirdly familiar. And I just sort of assumed like, oh, well, it's the opening stage and they're paying homage, and that's kind of cool. But having played through the whole game now, and without spoiling, exactly what happens throughout the whole thing, it is a lot of Star Fox 64. Like it's not just that opening stage paying homage. There's a lot of references and stages that are structured similarly, or stages that are, even if they're not structured in the exact same way, they're structured in a way that's a similar goal. I think one example that I can talk about is Zonus. Zonus in the original Star Fox 64 was a stealth mission where you had to take out these searchlights as you were going along. And in this, I won't go into exactly how, but it is also a stealth mission. It's just a different kind of stealth mission. So it's really Star Fox 64, and it's sort of a series reboot the way they pose the story, but it's a series reboot that's basically modeled after the most famous and best Star Fox game.
Steve, I got a question for you. On the right path, I mean, like directionally, the right path on N64, there was that. It's probably the third level in. There was that robot that's like, "Where is the creator? I must be complete." Do you remember him? Is he in this?
If he is, I haven't found him. They do have alternate paths. They do it in sort of a different way, where you in the original Star Fox 64, if you knew which way to turn, like the first time you played Corneria, you could just like turn and be like, okay, now I'm on the hard path because I knew to turn here. This doesn't really do it that way. You kind of have to do not a completely easy path, but it funnels you sort of along one path, and there's some variance in it, and then later on other paths kind of open up. So
I think he might be the greatest non sequitur boss of all time, because like you look at his dialogue for that, and they never answer a single thing he brings up. You're like, where is the creator? Why isn't he complete? Like I don't know.
What's happening?
I loved the corny dialogue in that game. I hope they stay true to that.
So yeah, my review for that won't be coming out for, I think, a couple weeks. I think it's actually, they sent Star Fox Zero like very, very early, so my review won't be coming for a while. But I think it's out April 20th, if my memory serves, or at least sometime that week. That's usually the embargo date of the release date. But yeah, so it's not out for a while, and I've already had it for a couple weeks. So they sent it out like crazy early. Well, they sent it out crazy early for the reason that people are allowed to talk about it a little bit in the context of impressions.
So here's the thing, and really this has nothing to do with anything, but I was really hoping this game would be a complete disaster nightmare situation. So you could call it Star Fox Zero and then have the subhead out of 10.
Yeah, we save 0 out of 10s for games that are, well, I don't even think we have a 0 out of 10.
We didn't even give Tony Hawk a 0 out of 10.
For games that are just unplayably broken, so it's not that.
Tony Hawk, Tony Hawk
listen,
5
don't
got
bring
1.
logic into this. Just enjoy the joke.
In the same way that I wish last week's show had something to do with time travel so that I could call it Chattycast 88 miles per hour. But that possibility has passed us by.
Yeah, my joke was better, but yeah.
Anyway, yeah, I'll have more to say about Star Fox when the actual review comes out. But that's the impressions that I'm allowed to talk about so far. And that's sort of the message. The message that I wanted to send basically was like, this is very Star Fox 64, because I don't think people even realize.
That's good to hear, because I love that game almost more than any other game ever made. So
yeah, I'm a big Star Fox 64 fan. So let's move on to our main topic here. Quantum Break launched this week, another game that I recently played and reviewed. You can find the review on Shack News. So marks an unprecedented step towards merging passive entertainment media, TV and movies, with video games. So Remedy used several real-life actors. I mentioned Littlefinger and Iceman. It also uses...
They have names, you know.
I know, but I'm calling them...
I don't know what they are, but they have...
Littlefinger and Iceman. It's Sean Ashmore and... I don't remember Littlefinger's real name.
Somebody went to
also
IMDb.
the tall guy from that Fox sci-fi show. he's Littlefinger's assistant. Anyway, it started with an F. Anyway, all right, let's go. The distinction between in-engine cutscenes and FMV episodes is starting to get blurry, so we're bound to see more crossover. So this week we're talking about entertainment crossover in general. What does this mean for dedicated video game voice talent? People who make their career out of that might get pushed out. Does seeing a recognizable face take you out of the experience? And do you want to see more game show hybrids like Quantum Break? Let's tackle that middle question first. When you see an actual like recognizable actor that you know, and you're like, oh hey, it's whatever. Does that sort of take you out of it?
No. Like Kevin Spacey was pretty good in that Call of Duty game.
Oh yeah, he wasn't. Yeah.
It really depends. I think that. So I was going to bring up the Kevin Spacey thing, so I'm glad you did, Asif, because I want to compare it to the one that came right after that with Christopher Maloney as the antagonist, I guess you'd call him, in Black Ops 3. I think that in Spacey's case, they built it around him, so it felt really natural, right?
Yeah. I mean, he was playing Frank Underwood, but without the drawl.
A bit, yeah. And so you really had built the entire narrative around him, whereas with Malone, you barely ever see him. And the other thing, too, is that I thought the visuals were a lot better in Advanced Warfare. So Spacey seemed like he belonged there a lot more, whereas with Black Ops, it kind of felt like they just slapped a Stabler face skin over a generic character model. So I don't know. Like I really think it depends on how well they're implemented, like Spacey kind of being the best example. But at the same time, there are instances where taking you out of the game with a celebrity cameo is exactly the intent, right? And I think that Saints Row has done this historically well. You have Burt Reynolds in Saints Row the Third as the mayor of Steelport, who helps you fight zombies, and it's amazing. And you've also, and more importantly, got Rowdy Roddy Piper showing up in Saints Row 4, and any game that has the line "Rowdy Roddy Piper shows up where he is needed" is going to be a-okay with me.
Yeah, the cameo thing it's sort of its own animal, where you have like Hollywood actors coming in and playing themselves
also,
in some funny way.
Keith David is a dead man. That's the other line that made that game.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Unforgettable.
So we have some comments on this. I want to run through. I'll pepper them in here and there. But the Bird says, "I feel like it's a waste sometimes. Remember Sean Bean's phoned-in performance in The Elder Scrolls 4, or Peter Dinklage in Destiny, although that might have been the story's fault."
I totally blame that one on the writer, Dinklage.
Or even Patrick Stewart in Elder Scrolls. He says he was super mad about Kiefer Sutherland's, quote, stealing David Hayter's iconic role. Hayter had been the voice of Solid, Liquid, and Naked, so it seemed like a crime to cast Venom with a new voice actor. After playing the game and loving it, my tune changed. So he says, like,
also, I gotta say, are we outside the realm of spoilers on that game now?
I'm sure.
Because technically, I mean, if you have not played Metal Gear Solid 5...
Spoilers for Metal Gear Solid 5.
Okay. I haven't.
It's several months old now. Yeah, if you don't mind, cover your ears and sing La 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 La.
Yeah,
I'll cover my headphones and see if this works. La 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 La, it doesn't work.
The snake you play in Metal Gear Solid 5 is not the same big boss. So the Kiefer Sutherland thing didn't bother me that much, but of course
they pull a switcheroo on you.
They do,
but it actually has like story justification.
Yeah,
I love a good switcheroo.
Yeah.
So yeah, he's saying like it doesn't usually actually matter like most of the time, and he said that he cited all those examples of like Hollywood actors kind of phoning it in, which I think is also the problem, because there's a belief, it seems like, and probably justifiable, that like this is kind of below them. And they're like, all right, yeah, sure, I'll come in and read for your dumb video game, whatever. and that leads to a little less quality. I don't think Quantum Break suffers that. I think the actors in there were trying. They didn't have much material to work with. I mean, Littlefinger, like I said in my review, he turns from like kind of a boastful prick to like evil megalomania very quickly, and so he chewed the hell out of the scenery because what else can you do with that role? You know what I mean? But I think they actually did try in that case, probably because they knew it was like tied to a TV show and it was like this new interesting thing. Yeah. Leonard Nimoy in Civilization 4 was also cited as an example, and also
Seaman.
Seaman.
Yeah.
I mean, his voice is so iconic, or was so iconic.
I feel like he's also a guy that commits. Like if he takes a role, he's gonna. He played a voice on The Simpsons, and
but he
didn't play it. He did it like 2 or 3 times, Steve.
Yeah.
But Civ 4, he was fantastic in, and also Seaman. I mean, was a very weird game, but he did a great job.
It's Seaman.
Oh, my bad.
You slurred it so quickly. It came off like the pun I was meant to be referencing.
My bad.
And Rev Raven, his post is very long, and it's good, so I don't want to give it short shrift, but I can't read the whole thing. But he says the Ghostbusters game is the pinnacle of this discussion, since one of its points was having the likeness and voice acting of the majority of the film's cast, including, writing it as if it were supposed to be Ghostbusters 3. And it turned out mediocre. The idea was great, but a second-class Kmart developer like Terminal Reality, geez, low blow, shouldn't have been the studio to realize it. He also cites David
Kmart developer? Ouch.
Yeah, really.
Wow.
Star Trek Online has a bunch of the B-string actors doing voice work. Professional VAs like Peter Cullens and Frank Welkers. I've always felt we're a notch or two below, quote, real actors, but still above, quote, voice actors.
Wow.
Which he's got a real complex hierarchy.
Yeah, this is interesting.
Venom going too. Dang.
I have a game I'd like to bring up, or a franchise that crossed over to gaming I'd love to bring up. Because at first they tried it, and it was terrible. South Park. You remember you remember that game with the turkeys back on N64?
Mm-hmm.
Pretty horrible.
For a while they were like, let's just make a South Park blank. It's the same sort of logic that's gone towards like Simpsons and Star Wars.
Yep. No, absolutely. But then you finally got Matt and Trey, though, and they sat down and they wrote out a script for a game just like they did a show, and Stick of Truth is wonderful, and I'm sure the Fractured But Whole will also be wonderful.
Yeah, and the only criticism people really had for Stick of Truth was like, well, the RPG mechanics are sort of rote, and it's like, well, what do you expect? They're not.
It's a South Park game.
They're not gonna revolutionize RPGs as well. You gotta hope for one good quality or the other.
I mean, it was finally a South Park game. I think this is the trap a lot of Hollywood runs into, is they just license out their game and then they get a really crappy game. I mean, Batman has been victim of this from time to time, and now they've gotten their act together with
that's been a problem. This is sort of segued into a discussion of licensed games, because that's usually where this sort of thing comes out. But that's sort of been a weird situation with the Lego games. Because for a long time, the whole gag in the Lego games was that they were miming all of these famous scenes, And then they started giving them voices, and some of them would be voice sampled from the movie, and some of them are sound-alikes, and there was like a real disconnect.
I think most of them are.
The sound-alike. Yeah, I think so. But they do have like the occasional line like that is from the movie or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, you'll hear.
I mean, you're not gonna get Sam Jackson in there to do lines for a Lego game, though he did do it for Disney Infinity. That's kind of the weird thing.
Oh man. If you want Sam Jackson in a Lego game.
I just realized.
And
coming to America, Lego.
But that was back when they were doing the mime. That was back in the mime era, before they started putting like the real voices in.
Yeah.
The Clone Wars games.
As long as we're talking about Disney Infinity, if I can somehow manage to turn it towards that, like I would love to do all the time. It seems like they're going a little more aggressively after getting some of the original voice actors to do that. Like the original cast for The Force Awakens all reprised their roles for the game, I think. Mm-hmm. But of course, they're all like, they don't really have to worry about likeness rights, because technically they're like an abstract, cartoony version of the characters anyway. So probably took them like an hour to record the dialogue, because it loops a lot.
Yeah. Hey, I'm Krusty. Hey.
Hey.
So Yeah, I fit a Simpsons reference wherever I can. So we're going to wrap this up shortly because we have to move on to other things. It's been a quick discussion. But would you actually like to see more game show hybrids? I know neither of you have played Quantum Break, but the idea itself is pretty solid. I didn't think the execution was great in Quantum Break, but the idea seems kind of cool.
But they've tried this before. Remember Defiance, for example?
Yeah, that was more like...
historically, this has been a pretty terrible idea.
I think the real problem there is like there's so much time involved in the TV production that you to be responsive to what the game community is doing, which is changing on like a daily basis.
Yeah.
You would need to either like record a bunch of different scenarios or just have like a super quick production schedule.
Or don't be live action.
Yeah.
Be computer generated, because that's what South Park's able to do. They have 6 days to air usually when they knock out one of those episodes. So I think an animated series.
You never see the commercial until like a day before.
I was gonna say, I just think animated series would probably lend better to that than live action.
Yeah.
Well, the other thing too is when you're producing TV, you really don't have much wiggle room to kind of change things, especially when you're talking about like big special effects pieces and stuff like that. So the other alternative is if you're going to have a story in a game influence the story in a TV show, it really can't do it in a super meaningful way, right? Like the actual differences can't really affect the overall story that much because you still have a story you have to tell for the benefit of the people who don't play the game. So,
and I think the way Defiance did it, wasn't it like basically when they were between seasons, that was when the community could have a much bigger impact because they were
that's the way to do it too. I think that's right. Yeah.
Yeah. You can help sort of determine the direction of the next season in some minor way. So yeah, good on you, Quantum Break. Good try. We can move on to newsy bits in our game, but first, Brian, you have a quick word.
Yes, Audible.com, provider of electronic audiobooks, has a special message for you, the Shack News listener. That's right, my friend.
What they call ebooks.
Well, they're actually audiobooks, Steve.
Like email.
Because you listen to them.
Yeah, I know.
They read them to you, so you don't have to, read.
On the World Wide Web.
Yeah. Audible, those guys, they offer you a free 30-day trial to check out their book service. Lots of great books on games, tech, hundreds of other topics. Just you name it, there's probably an audiobook on it. And you can check it out, get a free 30-day trial and a free audiobook download by going to audibletrial.com/chattycast. That's audibletrial.com/chattycast.
Thank you.
Thanks, Audible.
So our newsy bits, these are going to be extremely quick because we want to get to our game, but and also there's not that much to address. Brian, I'll go to you first. God of War concept art leak shows Norse mythology setting. Kratos apparently is going to take on the Norse pantheon, of which everyone knows the ones that are in Marvel Comics. Your thoughts as a God of War fan?
So, well, my wife's really the God of War fan. I'm just kind of along for the ride. But my thought is basically I feel like this was the only other way they could go. They really kind of wrote themselves into a corner with God of War 3. And so they kind of like spun their wheels and did prequels for a bit, but you can only do that for so long. So you have to find another pantheon, and really, in terms of like pantheons of gods, the only other one that's as noticeable and like really notable, and I'm not saying by far it's not the only pantheon of gods, but if we're talking about like ones that has like a
the one that's known in Western culture very
cultural resonance, especially in the West. It's the Norse gods, okay? So Odin and Thor and Loki and whatever that one squirrel one is.
Squirrel Girl?
The thing. Look it up. It's like Roth Sokar or something like that. He shows up in an issue of Squirrel Girl and causes some problems. But so I think that's the only natural outcome. My only question is Kratos the right character to use?
That's what I was about to bring up. And we talked about this yesterday, and you said you wanted it to be a pissed off Valkyrie.
Yeah,
and I was like, that sounds fantastic.
Yeah, I want to
play as Kratos again.
Well, see, I have nothing against Kratos. Like, a lot of people hate Kratos. I think Kratos is fine for the kind of games they're making. Like, that's the kind of protagonist you want. But a new character like a Valkyrie that's been wrong, I think, ties into the narrative, culturally makes more sense, and isn't just Kratos being like, "Oh, I found myself in a new place. I must now kill the gods."
Time to kill my way through a new pantheon.
Yeah. Now, I think Kratos can show up. Like, I have no problem with Kratos being a part of the story, but I think you need to have a new playable character to really kind of make this its own thing. Yeah, but I don't think they have any interest in that, and that Kratos sells, so we'll get Kratos murdering the Norse pantheon.
Yeah, sure. Why not? A guy with a Greek name.
Yeah. Nothing makes sense.
The Norse pantheon. Asif, are you a God of War fan?
I don't. It's not that I dislike the game at all. It's a really good game. I don't know. It doesn't do it for me.
I'm betting at some point in this you're gonna come across some naked, like, I don't even know, Norse someone, and then it'll be like, press X to have sex, and it's like the dumbest thing that's in every God of War game.
Yeah.
It's idiotic.
I think you just highlighted why I don't really like that game. It's a bunch of to me it's passive. It's like hit X at this point, hit circle at this point, hit triangle here. It's like
and then I want to
move around. I like Zelda style combat with Z targeting and stuff, or L targeting. You know, I don't like this whole like it's awesome cinematic. Like I'd rather watch a God of War movie than play the game. So usually what happens, I watch my friends beat the game because I just don't really find it that fun. It's cool. It's cool to watch.
When I played God of War, especially when I went back and played like an HD, I think remaster or something like that, it occurred to me like it feels like Kratos is floating on top of the land. You know, like the animations, something about it, like it doesn't feel like there's weight to the way that he's connecting with the environment. So
I think that's because they really place the emphasis on the visuals, like really fancy character models and stuff.
I think it's sort of like the same feeling I get when I play an older Final Fantasy game, and the character models are sort of running along these pre-painted backgrounds, and you know that behind the pre-painted background there's some sort of like path that they're allowed to walk on, and that defines what's the playable space. That kind of is what God of War feels like to me now. So whatever they do with this setting wise, I kind of want them to rethink the engine in that way and make the environment more of like a physical space.
More interactive even, because like it's really just these beautiful things happening around you, and then press X to kill, press circle to dodge. You know, it's like I don't know. To me, I'd rather watch a God of War movie than play a game.
The narrative is pretty. I mean, it's not like complex or deep, but it works.
Really like
it's a solid narrative.
In the later ones where it was like I need to get revenge on Zeus, who's also my father, and blah blah blah. It lost me a bit. But the first one where he's this guy who was a warrior, his family got killed. He goes to take on the God of War. He becomes the new God of War. It's like that seems like it's a thing that could actually be a Greek myth. Like that story could just be a Greek myth, and it would be completely believable.
But like if you dig into like the Greek mythology, a lot of it, like they very clearly did their homework. It's basically all just gods being terrible beings and betraying
to each other and to humans.
Yeah. And like the twist in God of War 3 with Athena and all that was pretty interesting. But I don't know, like it just seems to me like if you're gonna do this, you're gonna go to a different pantheon, do a character that has some degree of connection and resonance and relevance, and then if you want to bring Kratos in as maybe like a co-op character or something like that, go for it.
Have him make an appearance or something.
But yeah, my vote is for Angry Valkyrie. But then again, I vote for Angry Valkyrie in pretty much any game.
So I've got one other newsy bit that I'm not even going to say that much about, Brian. I'll give you 1 minute to rant if you so choose. Mighty Number 9's release date still has not been announced. What the fuck, guys? Like, come on.
Okay.
It's getting kind of
so. Here's the thing. Like, I supported this game, full disclosure, when it came out, and I was really excited about it. I'm like, okay, yeah, Keiji Inafune sticking it to Capcom, one of the good guys. He's gonna get a win. So excited about this. Here's some money, and I'm like, yeah, I can't wait to play this in like 2 years.
5 years later.
And now I'm at the point where it's like, you know what? I know I'm not getting that money back. Just keep it. Cancel the game. I don't care anymore. It's yours, okay? Consider it a loan for the other good Mega Man games. It's a gift, but just do not bother me with this anymore. I cannot commit any more psychic real estate to Mighty Number 9.
Having played Mighty Number 9 at a couple events, it felt kind of cool, but it wasn't like the second coming of Mega Man or anything. So it was like, this is kind of neat
at this point. Like,
yeah. I just mean like whenever you do this, what I really would have liked this game to be is actually 2D. When you do this 3D on a 2D plane thing, it never feels quite right. Like they never nail the sort of pixel perfect precision feeling. And so I'm like, okay, well this feels like, Mega Man X7 or something like that. Like where even though that game was extremely bad, so that's a bad example. But it feels like those later version Mega Man X games where it was in 3D slash 2D, and it doesn't feel quite right. It doesn't feel like the other games. So it feels like that applied to the original Mega Man series.
Yeah, it sucks. This whole situation is just terrible, and they have been just frustratingly opaque about this whole situation. And
Yeah, it's weird.
as somebody who gave them money, I have not been thrilled with the outcome.
Yeah, I can imagine. So
I just saw a story too. If you want to, I don't know if it if we've got it up on the site or not yet. But
if you have time, feel free to bring it up. I'm trying to speed through things.
Yeah, I got a minute.
You got places to be.
I know my schedule.
Is it this one about the California congressman who's under investigation for $1,300 in Steam purchases?
No, that's pretty good too.
It's pretty funny, yeah.
I was going to say they just confirmed Final Fantasy VII will be 3 full-sized games. That's what the remake's going to be. Is 3 games.
So they're StarCrafting it.
Yeah, I don't know about this one, guys. I don't know about this. I don't like it.
To be fair to Final Fantasy VII, that game always felt segmented to me.
Yes.
So maybe it'll work. I don't know.
But I'm not paying. I don't really want to pay 180 or 120 or whatever dollars to get this. I mean, like this is my enthusiasm for Final Fantasy VII Remake is kind of limited to start with, and asking me to buy $60 games 3 times to get a story I've already seen is not really. Yeah, you guys have fun. I'll wait till it's all in one bundle and look for $20.
I played that 15 demo, and that thing was really pretty.
Yeah, it looks great. I haven't had a chance to get to it yet.
It was like, man, this is some impressive, background.
That was the other thing. I played the Doom beta over the weekend.
Oh yeah.
It's fine. I don't know. Like I like that. I feel like I can actually. I feel like I can actually make a difference in the game. Like when I play Call of Duty, I just die instantly because every like a 15-year-old hopped up on some kind of like attention deficit disorder medication, and like all they are is just like we are creating a generation of headshot robots. They are incapable of aiming anywhere other than the head. At least in Doom, I kind of felt like, oh, okay, this is slow and kind of boring and pointless, but I at least feel like I've done something. I've killed some guys. I've gotten some points.
I'm gonna make a game where like the lower left abdomen is the really weak spot because that's where I always shoot.
Well, the weird thing is it doesn't really feel like Doom. I don't know how to describe it, but whatever it is, it ain't Doom.
Thank you. Okay, this year is the 20th anniversary of Shack News, but it's also the 20th anniversary of Quake. That's the reason Shack News is even existing. Why on earth would you create a Doom on the 20th anniversary of Quake, and then basically make the Doom for this new beta? It feels like Quake. It feels like Quake. There's quad damage. There's quad damage in Doom. Let's think about this for a second. There's quad damage in Doom.
Yeah. Doesn't make any sense. The only thing I can think of is that they figured the Doom name had more brand value than the Quake name. Yeah.
I don't think so. I'm not really sure, guys. After Doom 3...
That may or may not be true, but that might be what they were thinking.
But if you're aiming at like, the broad mainstream who probably grew up playing Doom on their computers, maybe got out of PC gaming for a bit after that, and are just not thinking,
get out before Quake or Quake 2.
I'm not a marketer.
Hey, The Rock was in that movie. I remember that.
Exactly.
I understand.
That's something that needs to be remade. Is The Rock with?
But that game is so Quake 3, it's not even funny.
Yeah, it's just like I don't know.
It's Quake 3.5 or whatever. You know, they should have just called it Quake. The one thing I like about Doom is that demon with the rockets on his back that you can pick up the power up for. That's cool.
Yeah, that's all right.
That's why it's Doom. The demons do look very Doom. They don't look Quake to me.
No, that's true. But it plays like Quake 3. And a lot of Shackers don't like Quake 3, but it's not bad. I don't know. It's okay. Like you said, it's fine.
I like how our audience is so like old and jaded that they still have strong opinions on Quake versus Quake 3.
I have strong opinions. I think Quake 2 is the best Quake, and Quake
We catered to the
Quake
olds
3.
here at Shack News.
And then down here, Quake Live. I mean,
Anyway, that's I just want to get that in there. But anyway,
yeah,
so we'll
fair enough.
move through Beat the Doc real fast. It's time for Beat the Doc, the part of the show where I pit my friends against each other in a pointless game. As always, our guest will go first. Actually, that's not true. I'm going to make this a buzz-in game because I think that's more fun. Today's game is called Slumming It. I'm going to name a video game character and the game or series they hail from, and you just tell me the recognizable Hollywood actor who lent their voice to it. Simple enough.
slumming it.
Slumming It, yeah, that's the name of the game.
I like it.
So, the first one, Captain David Anderson in Mass Effect. Captain David Anderson.
Oh, Buzz.
Brian?
Is that Keith David?
That is Keith David, yes.
All right.
I was like, you said his name earlier.
Yeah.
Two first name having guy.
Would have been funnier if you asked Keith David from Saints Row 4.
Yeah, I was avoiding ones that the chatty had mentioned, so don't try cheating by looking there.
Okay.
The father, who I don't even think he has a name, but your father in Fallout 3.
Buzz.
Brian?
That's Liam Neeson's.
Yep, that is a Liam Neeson joint. All right, Asif, hand on the buzzer.
I'm ready, but I don't know any of this.
Emperor Yoshiro in Command & Conquer Red Alert 3.
Oh, I think I know this. Buzz.
Okay.
Is that Takei? Is that George Takei?
That's George Takei.
That sounds like the sort of thing he'd do. Yeah.
Yeah, cheesy.
Shout out to we didn't mention this, but shout out to Red Alert. Just some incredible celebrity cameos over the years. Like Ric Flair as one of the Allied commanders. Fantastic. Fantastic. Red Alert is A-OK by me.
These are going to get slowly more obscure as we go along. Spyro's mentor, Ignitus, from the Legend of Spyro series.
I know who did Spyro's voice.
Oh, okay. Who did Spyro's voice? It's not going to count.
Carlos Alazraqui, who is also the voice of the Taco Bell dog and was on Reno 911.
Wow.
I love that guy.
Yeah. I don't know who did Ignitus, though. Sorry.
I feel like that should deserve bonus points. I don't know.
Just give him he won already.
That was a crazy amount of knowledge. Gary Oldman did the voice of Ignitus.
Oh, that's pretty good.
Okay.
I like that.
He was slumming it there.
Yeah, he did. He was. Number 5.
He did the work.
Porn producer Steve Scott in Grand Theft Auto Vice City.
This one I honestly do not know.
Steve Scott
in Grand Theft Auto Vice City. This is a weird one. This surprised me. 3, 2, 1.
Burt Reynolds.
No, it wasn't Burt Reynolds. It was Dennis Hopper.
Oh, okay.
Oh.
That sounds right.
Yeah.
That's the only one I even had a remote chance
Surprised me. That's a weird one. And here's one from a game that I didn't even know existed. King Mattress from Pissed, which was a parody of Myst. What? Do you know this one?
I do. I actually do. This is the great John Goodman.
It is John Goodman. Oh my God.
That's why I'm the doctor.
I got shut out.
Yeah,
here's the thing. I never played that game, but I remember when I was a kid at Walmart, it was there on the shelf, and John Goodman was on the cover. That's the only reason I know that.
Oh, that's why. Okay.
Yeah. That was back when they were doing all those
cover.
games.
I was just looking up like obscure Hollywood actors in games. Not obscure actors, but obscure references. Anyway,
you come into my house, and
that's it. Also, off the show. Anyway.
I'm terrible at this.
No, I was talking to you, Steve. You come into my house. You disrespect me like this.
That was 4 out of 6 for the doc. That was much more of a blowout than usually.
Tigers win the Super Bowl. Tigers win the Super Bowl. It's not even the right sport.
I got shut out like the Cleveland Indians on opening day.
Oh, I'm sorry. No. We do still have to play the show against each other.
I have the show sitting in plastic over there because
when you get a chance to get out of virtual reality, give it a spin.
You gotta add me on.
Or wait for the PSVR virtual reality that Brian will be stuck in forever.
Yeah, add me on Miitomo, Brian. I want to go over your house.
We'll do that. We'll do that off the air. We'll take care of that off the
air. All right, so we're gonna make some room for plugs here. I want to plug. People who visit the site already know this, but people who only listen to the podcast might not. We have 3 new writers. I said we wanted to assemble a new Aussie out of the parts of writers. like Voltron, and we did.
Or Frankenstein's monster.
They're all part-time for now, so that's why I say I'm not diminishing their talents or anything. I'm just saying they're part-time. So it's Cassidy Moser. She's writing features for us. David Craddock is writing news, and John Kiefer is writing news. And there's a little bit of crossover, like Cassidy might write some news once in a while, and those two might write features sometimes. But that's sort of their main areas. So if you haven't yet, visit the site, read some of their new stuff, and welcome them to Shack News. Asif,
Welcome, guys.
what are you plugging today?
I always plug Shack News Mercury, which is a $5 a month subscription service.
Pay us.
That's ad-free Shack News experience to help support the site. It's great. If you do it, you're an awesome person.
It's
so
the
do
honest
Mercury.
way to view our site with no ads.
Yeah,
Unlike you thieves using ad block.
Yeah, you could do ad blocker and hurt our site, or you could get Mercury and you could help us.
Yeah.
So I'm just saying, Shackers, if you want me to not delete the chatty in the next year, sign up for Mercury.
Breaking out the threats.
I know, right? I got my band hammer in my hand. Outside of that, I'm going to do continued coverage of virtual reality probably for the next eternity. I'm working on a massive list of games that are available for Vive at launch, and some guides even, because people are having issues doing some certain things and want to help them. And that's what we do over at Shack Facts with our buddy Josh.
Cool. Yeah, Josh actually just wrote a guide today on hooking up your PS4 to your PC.
And then, I echo Steve's sentiment with welcoming our new team. I saw a post from Ambient yesterday that said he was really excited to see all the new content hitting our site. It's like it's been a while since
we got a major
dominating
of content yesterday. The last couple days, especially yesterday, I noticed we had like way more posts than we had.
Yeah, I'll give a quick chatty shout out to Ambient 80. He says, so I'm scrolling through the latest chatty app, seeing what the chatty is talking about today, and I see Asif Khan has posted an article, John Kiefer has posted an article, David Craddock has posted an article, among many other writers. This place is great, love the articles, and chatty seems to be more active recently. I love this place. I just wanted to give him a shout out for that.
Yeah, that's very nice.
I thought you'd like to hear that, Steve.
Yeah, I do. Brian, do you have anything to plug?
I guguess go check out my review of the show. If you are in baseball mode and you haven't seen it yet, it's final.
About opening day happening yesterday.
It's been like opening like first half of the week technically because not all the teams play on the same day. But it's a good one, and if you're interested in the game, that'll give you some feedback on it.
Speaking as the editor, it is a good review.
It's all right.
It got me to buy the game.
It's fine.
Yeah.
And a couple other people in the chatty, we all bought it based on your review.
Oh, cool.
So
well,
it was a good review.
This is inside baseball as far as the writing goes, and to use that cliche. But I actually complimented to Brian personally. I complimented his closing paragraph because I think it's very easy to slip into baseball metaphor when writing about a baseball game, and he didn't do that for most of the time. And then at the very end, he did it in a way that's like really perfect and illustrates his point very well. So just to go into nerdy writing talk for just a second, I was really pleased with that. So yeah, go read that and see what I'm talking about. So that's the show. We'll be back next week. We're probably going to get our new staffers on at some point, possibly next week, possibly another week.
Please. Yeah. Please make me not have to come on the show anymore.
We'll eventually kick off the show.
Beat into a pulp and beat the dog. It's more like beat the briefcase into a pulp at this point.
None of the new staffers will have listened to the show, and we'll get to beat the dog and be like, what the hell? What is this?
I don't know. I think Craddock could hold up pretty well to the doc in some of these trivia games.
Yeah, I bet he could. Depending on what I pick, I bet all of them could. You never know. The topics. I try to tie them to the show theme somehow, and sometimes that works out better than others. Anyway,
I think you need to do one that's like Duke Nukem catchphrases or something.
Yeah,
I'll have a shot.
What? Like all of them are like Shake It Baby.
Oh, that's one Doom Space Marine.
Number 3, Shake It Baby again. Anyway, that's the show for Asif Khan. I'm Steve Watts.
I am Brian Carr.
And we will see you on Chatty.